Hello, I'm Alma Schneider. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mother of 4 children, one of whom has Prader-Willi syndrome.
And I am Iris Miller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and the proud mother of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising children with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new.
This is Two Moms, No Fluff. Hello, everyone, and welcome to 1 in 6 Support's Two Moms, No Fluff podcast. We're really happy to have everyone here today. If you are a veteran, thank you for coming back. And if you are here for the first time, you are coming on a really exciting day because we have a very inspiring guest. I'm Alma Schneider, and I'm going to introduce you to Nikki Mammano, who is going to tell you a little bit about herself, and we're going to launch right into her new book called Breaking Bad. So hello, Nikki, and welcome.
Breaking Good.
I'm sorry, did I just say Breaking Bad? Breaking Good. I'm sorry. I'm a big fan
No,
of
it's
Bryan
okay.
Cranston. Oh my goodness.
I know. It's a
Breaking
great.
Good.
That's why it's named that. It's named after that. But you just
I'm
you might
sorry.
want to say
That's
it
my
right.
brain.
No, that's
That's my
okay.
brain.
It's
So
so
great
funny.
to
It's
have you
okay.
here. Now, in full disclosure, Nikki is a friend of mine, and I didn't know all about this information in her life until, after meeting her for a while, and we have a lot to disclose to the audience here about her past. So Nikki, can you just start off by telling us a little bit about your life, where you grew up, where you live now, your family, anything you want to share?
Sure. Yeah. So now I'm in Montclair, New Jersey, which I love, and I've been here for about 25-ish years, maybe a little more. Originally a Jersey girl, so actually born in Queens, but early on to Jersey. uh, did that, grew up, and then went to high school, Rockland County. Ended up from trauma spiraling into addiction, and that took me on the road to making it to Hawaii, where I, ended up in drugs and drug dealing and prison and homelessness, and that long, messy road of finding my way out. And I did that here in Montclair. I ended up moving back to the East Coast from Hawaii, and ended up in suburbia and have been living here for a long time, and I love it. And yeah, met you along the way, and here we are.
All right. And you have 2 daughters, correct?
I have 2 daughters. Yep, raised them here. One is about to be 30. She's in the book, and they both are, but with limited. I do that in very small doses because I really felt like their story was not my story to tell. But yeah, they are. Both wonderful adults. My other daughter is about to graduate college. And yeah, they're just cool people.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Well, we've written this book, and you're not, in your past, you have not been a writer, but had you ever considered writing a book before? And I'm just wondering where the moment was that inspired you to write the book that we're going to be talking about in a second. Was there a particular
Um,
moment that you said, I need to write a book, or how did that come about?
so when I got back from Hawaii, I hadn't finished college, and I did go back, and my daughter was about 6 months old, and I actually took her with me a lot of the times, threw her in a stroller, and we, went to Ramapo. I went to Ramapo College, and parked and took her, strolled that stroller up that long hill from the parking lot, and she sat there in class with me. And I did communications and screenwriting. So I had
Mhm.
actually written my story, but I fictionalized it just for the screenwriting class, and
Mhm.
just to get it out. And I needed to write something for my final, so I did. And my professor, we sat down, and she said to me, "Is this a true story?" And I immediately said no. I didn't want to go there. I wasn't ready at all. And
Yeah.
she's like, "Well, it's really good. And it was like, okay. And I sat on that for a long time and actually for a very long time didn't think about doing anything with it. And as time passed and I was here in suburbia and, doing the mom thing, there were all these things that would come up. I mean, I literally was dumpster diving for food in the back of restaurants. And then suddenly a few years later, here I am, a PTA mom. So, I had a lot of feelings and things come up. And over the years, I would drop little pieces of the story here and there. Just, not any, most people didn't know it all.
Mm.
But I would drop little things and people were like, oh my God, that's so crazy. And, you should write that down. And eventually I did. I had come across a few people in my life that had really pushed me and said, no, 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 you should really do this. And I did. And it's been about 10 years in the making. And so, yeah, and now it's hit the shelves in January, and it's been incredible
Wow.
journey.
Well, I love how, seeds are planted along the way and you have people supporting you. And that's really what people think like, oh, I just decided to write a book. But having supports from people, I'm sure, gave you the confidence and the encouragement to really to put this down on paper. So I commend
Yeah,
you for that. So
absolutely.
without giving away everything in the book, can you give kind of, you mentioned a little bit about what's in there, but can you give us like kind of a little summary, a little synopsis of what this book is really about for you?
Yeah, so it goes back, I think, to trauma and generational trauma. And, I always say that trauma is a disease of, I mean, I'm sorry, addiction is a disease of disconnection and
Uh-huh.
trauma. And so, I had a lot of that in my life, and I headed right into addiction to, run away. I ran from my demons for a very long time. And I ended up running all the way to Hawaii. And that's where I found myself. I had wanted a new start there. I had actually gotten clean and I found myself quickly going back because I didn't do the healing. I wasn't, on the path. And so that led to dealing and it led to going down and being in prison and coming out and finding myself homeless and addicted and prostituting to survive and then I was pregnant and I eventually, you know, I knew I actually was homeless and pregnant, and I had to actually steal the pregnancy test, and I ended up, taking the test in a public bathroom, and I stole it from a pharmacy store, next door, and it was like that moment where I realized I have to do this, and I did, and I got clean, and I came back, and I raised my kids, and I did everything I could, but I found myself, still not facing those demons all those years later and I had to. I eventually I faced that point where there was no other choice.
Mhm.
And so I did. And when I did, I found out that trying to run from that pain, um, it wasn't worth it. It just led to more pain. And actually facing it was extremely painful temporarily, but we come out the other side. And that is what I really want to get across. And I try to get across in that book, like we can do this. It's not easy,
Mhm.
but we can do this.
Yeah. And everything you're saying, I mean, people might be wondering, okay, why are we talking about addiction on a podcast about families with children with disabilities? There's so many parallels here. I read the book and it is so riveting. Some parts are very painful to read, especially because I know you
Yeah.
and dealing with your trauma and reading about that was hard, but I was so struck by how along the way you just kept picking yourself up, over and over again. And this kind of strive to survive and not just survive, but thrive is, what we like to talk about it. We don't want to just get by. We want to really get our lives together and have our lives be as good as they can be. And I was just struck with your, it's such a cliche word at this point, but your resilience. And we deal with so many situations in the disability community where we have, as parents and as our kids, we have to pick ourselves up when we're just pushed down so many times. And it's so inspiring to just watch whatever the situation is, to watch somebody get through it, as you just mentioned, to really plow through it and do the healing that's necessary. And for our community, the healing really comes, a lot of it comes with talking to other people and being in groups where you don't feel alone. And I'm wondering if that has been part of your journey, just dealing with other people who have addiction issues or who have been in prison or who have had to, be on the streets. And if you could speak a little bit to that, are there people in your
Yeah.
lives who have really brought you together? I kind of know the answer to the question because I read the book, but for those who are out there who haven't.
Um, Yeah, so I mean, I think community is so important. It's vital and that's the community and the connection that helps us get through things. And I do think the community of the people understanding what we're going through is, but I also think community in general. I mean, we could be there for people no matter what we've been through. And that's one of I love one of the feedback that I got from the book is that people have told me they've never known an addict like that, or they've never been in that, but now they have more compassion and empathy, and now they want to do more in nonprofit work and helping and giving back. And I think that's across the board.
Yeah.
Like we're all here for each other, and it can jump from community to community, and so that's so important, and that's part of why I did the book, and what I want to do going forward is to raise awareness for everyone.
Mhm.
I started out with a nonprofit in Hawaii, but anything I can do to talk or to show up or be there.
Mhm.
Life is hard.
Yeah.
we're
Yes.
we're all we're all trying to just make it through, and we can walk through it together. And yeah, so I do agree that other addicts, and for me, and people that have been in prison and understand what it's like to be on the streets, it's important to have those connections, but let's go beyond that. Like we'll break down those barriers and just be there for each other.
Yeah. And, stigma is a big, part of our world, and it's a big part of the world of people who have experienced what you've experienced on many levels. And I don't want to get into all of, your trauma, but just being a victim of trauma and putting yourself in situations that are really stigmatizing. How do you deal with that? A lot of parents, just as a little background, a lot of families who have children with disabilities, they are so afraid of their child being stigmatized that, we might keep our information, very close to us and not spread it around because we want to protect ourselves, we want to protect our children. So is that something you've experienced? And if so, how have you dealt with that stigmatization?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's stigma around a lot of things that I've experienced, and it hasn't always been easy to hold my head up high. And I also had lived a lot of my life with an incredible amount of shame. But I think part of writing this book and understanding it and going through this process has led me to a freedom that I never knew that I could have, and that came with owning it and being
Mhm.
okay with it. And this is like, life is hard. I just said that, and here we are, and like we show up with all our messiness, and all our stuff, and be okay with it. And the people, someone said this to me, many people have said this to me, this is known, right? Your people will be there, the people that are supposed to be there will be there, and those that won't. And that is so true.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like here we are. This is me. It's for people
Yeah.
that have children with special needs, and as well, like this is me, this is my family, this is my life, and your people will be there and love you as you love your people. And
Hmm.
so, like I, I feel like writing the book has, like, I've taken off my clothes, and for the rest of my life I'll be walking down the street, and I've made peace with it. And I
Yeah.
think that's a beautiful thing. And
Yes, it's
and I
very liberating.
Yeah. And it does lead to freedom, and it's not easy to do. It took me a long time, and I'm not going to say that I don't still struggle a little, we all do.
Yeah.
But I think if we just own our situation and our life, the people that love us, and they love us, and that's enough. It's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And you just see I think it adds so much value to our lives to see, wow, people accepted me and they accepted my family. And I had, not that you have nothing to be afraid of when you have that support, but it makes the struggle a lot easier when you know you have people
Yeah.
in your corner and they're going to be there for you. So I just see so many parallels with
Yeah, and
oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry. But like you have this wonderful group that you've created, and you've been doing this for years and there's a place to go and people come there and they feel accepted and loved
Yeah.
and that's so important. So you've in this area and I hope, I know as you guys you're trying to do this in more areas, you've
Mhm.
created this space. And and for people to come and say like this is who I am. These are, this is where I'm at and it's sometimes it's not pretty
Yeah.
and then you surround each other and it's the same thing, it's universal.
Yes. And thank you for saying that. And I want to tell our audience here that you are a part of that community and that support because Nikki has also spent a lot of time working with children and families with disabilities. So you really get that part of the work as well. And I'm sure that your experiences in your own life have led you to be a more compassionate person and you've learned strategies to deal with difficult situations outside of addiction and what you've been through. So I thank you for that because you are a beloved person in our community, in the disability community. You are a wonderful ally and advocate. You attend our parades. When I barely knew you, you showed up at the parade and you come to our
Of
events.
course.
So you are a true ally in our community. And I want everybody to know that. Um,
Yeah, of
Question.
course.
What do self-care is so important for anyone who has experienced, difficult things in life. We make a point of always talking to our disability community about taking, the caregivers to take care of yourself in whatever ways we need to be able to continue on and persevere. What do you do for self-care?
Yeah, so self-care is equally one of the most important things we could do and one of the hardest things we could do for ourselves.
Yes.
And I'm in my 50s and I think I'm just starting to learn how to do that. It's been a journey from where I come from and especially people with trauma and that goes in my community, that goes in all the communities that there's trauma. It's just so hard and then there's guilt in taking care of ourselves and there's all these things that go along with it and I just I started the little things. It is still not easy for me,
Yeah.
and I struggle with it. I struggle with it often, but I figure out these little things. For me, walking, for me, seeing people that I love. I mean, there's all these little ways that I do it, and um, I do the best I can. But I'm better at it. I'm better at it now because I know how important it is, and I can see the difference when I do it.
Yes.
And it's not selfish, and that's what I had to learn. And it's a battle with myself because there's no one at this point it's like do it and sometimes I don't and I really have to I had to and I still do but come to that place where it is not selfish and it's okay.
Yeah, it's
Take that
necessary.
time. It's necessary, especially for parents in your community. It's important and it's necessary. And we are better people when we take care of ourselves. I
Yeah.
think that like I was, I didn't always do that. And I thought, no, I can't. But I found that when I do that and I calm down and I step back and I have some time to decompress, I'm calmer, I'm happier, and I'm able to be there for others.
Exactly. And that's, people don't consider that when they think about self-care. They think, oh, I'm just being selfish. I'm just trying to enjoy myself. It's like, no. And I always look at it this way. When we are taking care of ourselves in whatever way makes us feel good, we are kind of preparing ourselves in a way for when the proverbial crapola hits the fan. So we have to really nurture ourselves and take care of ourselves so that we are in a place, a stable place, so that when things go awry, we have the resources, the internal resources to deal with what's coming our way. Because there's always going to be a trigger, there's always going to be a challenging situation that comes up, and we're going to be better prepared for it if we have been taking care of ourselves. And that is, I think
Totally.
everyone can agree on that.
Yeah,
Um,
you can't when you're running on empty, you can't,
No, you
you know.
cannot. You cannot, and it's vital. What advice do you have for people who, let me rephrase this. So, in your book, there are so many times where you've kind of reached out for help and um, or you put the kind of your signals out thinking that people were going to respond and that they were going to respond in a way that was going to save you from your trauma, from future trauma, or to help you in your journey of healing. And it just didn't happen. And you really felt like you put those feelers out and really thought you were making that effort, and you were disappointed when it wasn't responded to. Um, what advice do you have for people who do keep hitting a wall when they're asking for help, or assistance in their issues, and that they feel that, well, I've made an effort and nobody responded? What advice do you have for those people?
Um, I think that was, a theme for me with family and trying to be seen and, trying to be understood. And it was hard. It's very painful to,
Hmm.
to not have that support or to not be seen. I think that I had to eventually come to terms with that and, understand other people's limitations and
Hmm.
my own limitations. And, then do my own healing journey and come out where I came out, and people will sometimes circle around, and some people won't. And I think I had an acceptance and an understanding. I was able to kind of step back at some point, and I think because of my life experience, because I'm able to kind of see and read and understand a lot of things. You know I I'm able to see things from a wide angle because of the experiences I've been through, and
Hmm.
so I learned how to accept life on life's terms, and and just do what I could, do the best I could, and you know what, my best wasn't always good enough, and I also had to come to terms with that and be okay with
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
But we can't make people be people they're not,
Hmm.
and it can be painful for sure. Um, for me, I just could be the best person I could be and do the work that I had to do for myself, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty okay with that today.
Yeah, and that's creating your own, another kind of family for a lot of
Yeah,
people, and community. I'm going to bring up community again. Having a community that you feel good about and comfortable with, even at a later age. And I know you mentioned you're in your 50s. You look like you're 20, so you're doing something right. But having people around you who who allow you to have your true nature, um,
yeah, it's found family. It's
be
like,
acceptable. Found
yeah,
families.
that chosen family, the chosen people that come into our lives is
Hmm.
it's everything.
Yeah, yeah, it
And
is. It
yeah,
can be
those are the people.
our saving grace.
Yes, exactly.
But the hard part is finding those people, and it is
Yeah,
disappointing when the people in our world are not, there for us in the way we would like or need them to be. But there are always people out there, to connect with, who will understand us and be part of our healing journey. So
yeah. I
I
mean,
just, sorry, go ahead.
Uh, I was just gonna say, like every wall I've hit in anything like that has always actually been like a lesson, and so it teaches us what to look for, what to accept, what not to accept, what we want for ourselves in our lives. So, we yeah, we take that information in, and then we find the people that we love and love us.
Yeah, and I think having those people in our lives allow us to have our nervous system a little bit relaxed so that we can focus on the healing. Because we
Yeah,
all know that when we're accepted and we're taken care of when we're taken care of, we can better understand our own situation and be more lucid and rational about how to go about healing. But at first we have to
yeah,
feel safe and
yeah.
feel safe in community. So, well, this book, I cannot say enough about it. My daughter's reading it now. I'm referring it to everybody I know. It is
Thank
so
you.
great. I just wrote a review for it on Goodreads. It was so inspiring. It's so well written, and you really tell your story in a way that I think anybody reading this book is going to see, how the incredible struggles you've experienced, and how you did not overcome them, but you have learned to live with these experiences and who you are as a person, and um and how people along the way have been there for you to help you through this. And again, it's not jumping over it or going under it. It is literally, you have to go through it. You have to own your situation and work from there. So I can't
Yeah.
say enough about this book. It's wonderful. And I'm so happy
Thank
for
you.
you as a friend, as a writer.
Yeah.
I
Thank
just think
you.
I think that this is really going to help people, all people, be more
Yeah.
understanding about addiction and about people who have gone through it and second chances. And it's life affirming. In a couple of words, it's a life affirming book that we all go through struggles, some a lot more struggles and a lot more profound struggles than others, but we can get through it. We really can.
Yeah.
And I think especially what's going on, around us in this world, on the outside, but also in our nuclear families, these are lessons that we all need to learn and to keep remembering. So thank you so much
Yeah. 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 Of course.
for
And I just wanted to
putting
say one
yourself
thing
out
about
there.
well, yeah, I just want to say one thing about, that what you just said is, I wrote it in a way so that it was relatable. I wrote it in a way that so people could be there with me, but also so that it felt like universal because we all struggle. And I wanted
Yes.
everyone that read it to be able to know, like, no matter what it is, like we have a shot, like we can do this. And it's not easy. And I'm not saying that at all, but
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it, and we will get there. We will all get there. So thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
putting yourself out there because I know this is huge, like you said about wearing no clothes for the rest of your
Yeah.
life. People now know your story. People who have known you
Yeah.
for many years who
Intimately.
have.
And yeah.
So you did a very courageous thing by writing this book,
Thank you.
and I'm sure it
Yeah.
will help so many people. So thank you.
That's the hope. Yeah.
Yes, get it, go out, and it's called Breaking Good by
Yeah.
Nikki Mammano. It is wherever you buy books. You can get it online. You can get it at your local bookstore. Order it from your local bookstore
Yep.
if you don't want to go online. And thank you so much for being with us, Nikki.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.